When walking around Rio Americano's campus, you can easily see who the majority is. Rio Americano's minority rate percentage is 32%. The California state average is 51%. I wanted to give the 32% a voice, a platform where they can speak on injustices they encounter in school. This is what they had to say.
I feel like a minority.
It was a cultural shock.
Can't really relate to the kids here.
So I felt out of place.
Throughout the process of making this series, I felt it was vital for people to hear how students of color truly feel at Rio Americano High School. Each and every student in this episode wanted to speak up about the injustices they were encountering so they could see and feel the change in our community. So we don't have to dread coming to school. So we don't have to have anxiety about coming to school. So we can feel safe at school, and more importantly, so we can feel like we are really a part of this community. The true definition of the word minority is as follows: the smaller number or part, especially a number that is less than half the whole number. There is only a 32% minority rate at our high school, and the students are aware of who the minority is.
Minorities at Rio would be the Mexican kids, the black kids, and the Middle Eastern kids.
I basically not from this community, like not born in America or born white.
I began by asking some freshmen that went to a very diverse middle school that had a 97% minority rate how it felt coming to a more affluent high school that does not have such a diverse group of students. I also asked a sophomore to see if the pattern of discomfort for students of color was less drastic as the years went by, but sadly there was no change. This is what they had to say.
It was a huge transition coming from a really small school with a population that was mostly Hispanics, and now coming here to a huge school that's mostly white. Now it's like I can feel the difference.
It's different. It's a lot different. Like, I feel like a minority. It's because I can relate to people at the other school, but at this school there's not a whole lot of color, so it's a lot challenging to fit in and to meet new people.
It was a cultural shock because coming from my old school, it was Mexican left to right, and coming here as a high school student, it was just, American people around me, so I felt out of place. I felt very left out as Mexicans because since it was all white, it was very hard for me to adapt into this new setting and make new friends that can't connect with me culturally.
It is based on these experiences that new and incoming students of color do not feel welcomed at Rio. Recently, I went to speak at a middle school that is majority Latino and Hispanic, and when I asked if any of the 8th graders were attending Rio, not one of them raised their hand, saying yes. I then asked them why, and they called Rio the racist white school, and they said they did not want to go to a high school where they weren't going to be accepted and wanted for who they were. So I asked some current Rio students why they felt that Rio is not a welcoming environment for students of color, and this is what they had to say.
People's privilege and how they use it is not to help minorities at all. I believe that people here are uneducated and try to speak on certain topics or try to make themselves seem appealing to minorities, so then end up being racist.
I think it's hard for us to fit in because this is majority of the school really isn't a minority, so they don't understand what we have to go through day by day.
Well, Rio is in a predominantly white neighborhood, and a lot of the people who live around here have a good amount of money, so already it kind of makes Rio a whiter school. So the majority of the student body is white. So I think for students of color, that could be uncomforting to kind of have to go into a school where there's not many students of color already.
Such a culture
it's not promoted per se by the school, but is it condemned by the school? There's all sorts of racial slurs you can hear when you walk around, and there's absolutely no accountability by the teachers or by the administration or the staff. Americano doesn't promote diversity, which I think is problem number one. And when issues of diversity come up, teachers and staff don't promote discussions about it. They don't want to have a safe space for people to voice their opinions and their concerns. Rio doesn't really have a surrounding area where they can bring in a diverse coalition of students, and they haven't really made any effort to try and do that.
Not only are students of color feeling uncomfortable starting at Rio, but they feel uncomfortable on a day-to-day basis, which doesn't allow them to truly feel a part of the Rio community, which they deserve. They are Rio students after all, and they deserve to even be able to speak up about how they truly feel at Rio. And this is what they had to say.
Sometimes when I get here, just like seeing the same people, the same race, just makes me feel like I don't belong here, because all I see is one color and I'm here. It makes me feel different, that I don't belong here. One time when my dad had to turn in forms to the office, he didn't want to get down because he didn't want to be judged of like his poor English, and that made me feel uncomfortable because like that is my dad and he like doesn't even feel welcome at my own school. That just isn't right.
It's been kind of a lot of anxiety, like thinking people think less of me, so I should think less of myself. But I don't know what people think, and I don't know if I should focus on that, but I still do.
Why do you think that they'll think less of you?
Because in a way, I feel like I am. Like, this is their home country, like they didn't have to go anywhere else. They don't need to, they don't